Today we are going to explain an action, drama thriller movie called The Courier. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Our story begins with a distressing scene of a young girl being abducted and held captive by a menacing individual. This person is subjecting her to torture in an attempt to extract information about a witness. Despite the girl's pain and suffering, she refuses to speak. The scene changes. Now we find ourselves in a New York church where we meet a man named Ezekiel Mannings who sports an eye patch. Mannings is attending a funeral, and his daughter Alice is also present. There, Mannings imparts a serious message to his daughter. He urges her to take precautions to avoid future trouble, especially when they eventually catch up with him. He advises Alice to seek out Agent Bryant for guidance. Alice agrees, but their conversation is abruptly interrupted by the wailing sirens of approaching police cars. An FBI team storms into the church and arrests Mannings. Across the ocean in London, a young woman in riding gear is riding a heavy motorcycle back home after her duty. Suddenly, her boss calls and instructs her to return in 10 minutes for urgent work. Returning to Mannings, now under police custody and placed under house arrest in his own home, his daughter Alice pays him a visit. She informs him that he will not testify. Mannings expresses hope that she has taken all the necessary precautions and emphasizes that the responsibility now rests squarely on her shoulders. Overwhelmed by frustration, Mannings lashes out at the nearby FBI agents guarding him. Meanwhile, in the federal district court in Washington, D.C., the judge takes their seat. Inside the courtroom, a witness to Mannings' wrongdoing awaits their moment to testify. The witness will testify from a live feed in the court from an unknown place in Europe. In another part of London, police officers, along with Agent Simmons, guide Nick Murch, the key witness against Mannings, to a secure location. The FBI team, under Agent Simmons' leadership, patiently awaits the delivery of a critical package. Nick is understandably concerned about safeguarding his identity, but Agent Simmons reassures him. She assures Nick that as soon as the package arrives, they can initiate the video testimony, ensuring that no one will be able to identify him. She also reminds Nick that Mannings is currently under house arrest, rendering him incapable of taking any immediate action. Meanwhile, within Mannings' residence, he relaxes while listening to music. Alice, his daughter, arrives and informs him that someone wishes to speak with him. Manning takes the call, and it's Agent Bryant on a line. Agent Bryant delivers the news that the courier is en route. In the courtroom, judges and court personnel remain on standby, eagerly anticipating the proceedings. Manning, too, is anxiously waiting for the delivery. Simultaneously, Agent Simmons and her FBI team, together with witness Nick, eagerly await the arrival of the courier. The motorcycle-riding girl revs her bike with increasing intensity as she approaches her destination. After some time, the motorcycle-riding girl arrives with the package. Agent Simmons, who is understandably cautious, checks the courier girl and forces her inside. Nick becomes increasingly worried as he observes this, and he expresses the need to use the bathroom urgently. Inside the room, an FBI agent opens the courier's briefcase, and suddenly cyanide gas begins to fill the air. Tragically, the gas claims the lives of all the other FBI agents present. Nick, hearing all this, locks himself in the bathroom for safety. Simultaneously, Simmons places the blame squarely on the courier girl and shoots her in the chest. Wearing a gas mask, Simmons sets out to find Nick. However, from behind, the courier girl retaliates. The courier girl then takes Simmons' gas mask. The courier girl locates Nick and escorts him out of the room. Once they're outside the room, Simmons, still disoriented from the encounter, appears with a gun and fires at them. The courier girl retaliates, injuring Simmons in the shoulder, causing her to fall. Witnessing this, Nick is in shock and filled with suspicion about accompanying the courier girl. She reassures him by revealing that she was wearing a bulletproof vest and that someone framed him for the deaths of the FBI agents. She emphasizes that her role was simply to assist him, and Nick inquires about her identity. The courier girl responds that she's just a courier and was also set up to appear as though she killed Nick and the FBI agents. Meanwhile, Simmons, now bleeding and in critical condition, manages to contact Agent Bryant and informs him about the escape of the courier and Nick. Back at the court, the judges and the jury are still waiting, growing increasingly concerned as they have yet to receive the live feed from the witness. As the courier girl is leaving, Nick pleads with the courier to take him with her. She agrees to his request. However, as they attempt to escape the parking area, they are confronted by Agent Bryant and his team. Bryant opens fire on them, but the quick-thinking courier manages to drive away, returning to the same location they were at before. Agent Bryant, not one to give up easily, he kills the building's security guard and proceeds to lock down the entire building, including the elevators. Using the building's announcement system, Bryant announces, if the courier returns Nick to them, they will spare her life. Trapped inside, the courier and Nick desperately search for an escape route, but all the exit doors are locked. Meanwhile, at the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., Special Agent Roberts contacts Bryant to inquire about Simmons and his team. Bryant deceives Roberts, falsely implicating Simmons in working with Mannings and being involved in the attempt to kill the witness, Nick. Roberts informs Bryant that he will dispatch an NCA team to their location within an hour, following FBI protocol. Bryant, feeling the pressure, expresses his intention to handle the situation himself. However, Roberts insists that they must send an NCA team as per protocol. Faced with the imminent arrival of an NCA team, Bryant instructs his men, armed with assault rifles, to locate the courier and Nick and eliminate them within the hour. Meanwhile, back at Manning's home, he and his daughter Alice are having breakfast when Bryant calls. Bryant informs Manning that they haven't completed the task of eliminating the courier and Nick yet, but they plan to do so within an hour. Manning emphasizes that failure in this mission would have serious consequences. In the parking area, the courier and Nick are hiding behind a car. Nick inquires if the courier has a weapon, but she regretfully confirms that she doesn't. The courier gives him her bulletproof vest. In the courtroom, the judge, growing impatient with the delay in the testimony, decides to schedule a new date for the case hearing. At Manning's residence, Alice initially attempts to manipulate the FBI agent guarding them, but ultimately humiliates him, asserting that he's not on their level. Back in the parking lot, the courier spots a lone Bryant team member and eliminates him. She takes the team member's assault rifle and discovers that it's specially designed for their use only. The courier also retrieves a pair of headphones used for communication with Bryant. At Manning's house, the FBI agent on duty informs Manning that they will be leaving in an hour as they've received word from their department that the charges against Manning have been dropped. Manning feigns surprise upon hearing this news. Back in the parking area, the courier and Nick find refuge inside a car, and the courier attempts to start it. Nick seizes the moment to confide in the courier, revealing that he used to work for Manning and witnessed him committing a murder. The car starts, but the noise alerts one of Bryant's men, who opens fire at the vehicle. The courier skillfully avoids the bullets and manages to run over the shooter with the car. The gunfire attracts more of Bryant's men, who begin shooting at the car. They unleash a barrage of bullets at the car, assuming the courier and Nick are inside. However, the two manage to escape from the car just in the nick of time, leaving their assailants bewildered. Seizing an opportunity, the courier asks Nick for a lighter and ignites the fuel that had leaked from the car. The resulting explosion catches some of Bryant's men nearby off guard, resulting in casualties. Bryant, witnessing this fiery chaos, is both shocked and anxious, prompting him to call in a special operative for the job. Meanwhile, Nick and the courier girl make a concerted effort to escape and encounter several more of Bryant's men, engaging in a fierce struggle. Nick sustains some injuries during the altercation but appears capable of walking and continuing their escape. The specialist summoned by Bryant arrives in his car, receiving the message from Bryant about the situation. Simultaneously, Nick and the courier find refuge in a room to hide from Bryant's gunmen who are relentlessly searching for them. Inside the room, Nick inquires about the courier's formidable combat skills and knowledge of weapons. She discloses that she acquired these skills during her time in the army, but left due to a tragic incident. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted when one of Bryant's men fires a shotgun at the room's door. In response, the courier and Nick manage to escape through a ventilation duct in the room, leaving Bryant seething with anger and anxiety. The courier and Nick make their way to the building's rooftop. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the special operative called by Bryant takes a shot at Nick's chest with a sniper rifle. Nick starts bleeding from the gunshot wound. The courier urgently tends to Nick's injuries before guiding him down to the parking area, where she hides him inside a car for safety. The courier skillfully eliminates some of Bryant's shooters and cleverly lures another into a trap using the sprinklers. Armed with her gun and her exceptional combat skills, she confronts the remaining members of Bryant's team but sustains significant injuries in the process. Despite her injuries, she manages to reach her motorcycle and makes a quick getaway. However, the special operative, using a drone, begins pursuing her. The courier adeptly evades the drone's pursuit, taking cover behind a car before launching a surprise attack that destroys the drone. But just as she attacks the drone, the special operative catches her from behind, choking her until she loses consciousness. The scene shifts, and we find ourselves back where we started. The courier is tied to a chair, and Bryant is relentless in his efforts to force her to reveal the whereabouts of the witness. It's a tense standoff. Bryant uses a loudspeaker to call Nick out, threatening to harm the courier if Nick doesn't appear. Nick comes out from his hiding. As Bryant focuses on Nick, the courier manages to free her hands. Just as Bryant prepares to shoot Nick, the courier disarms him and instructs Nick to run for his life. Bryant regains his composure and starts hunting for Nick. Meanwhile, the special operative is also on the hunt for the courier girl. They engage in a fierce shootout, but the courier girl deploys a smoke grenade to create cover and evade her pursuer. Back with Bryant, Nick manages to wound him with a stab, but then Bryant shoots him and Nick runs away. On the courier's side, she engages in a brutal battle with the special operative, eventually defeating him by using a car antenna as a makeshift weapon. Bryant, however, spots Nick and attempts to kill him, but the courier girl returns on her motorcycle, eliminating Bryant and saving Nick's life. The courier girl realizes that Nick has lost a significant amount of blood, so she rushes him to a nearby hospital. There, Nick inquires about her name, but she remains tight-lipped. After ensuring Nick's safety, she departs on her motorcycle. The scene shifts to Nick, now recovering in the hospital, when Agent Roberts pays him a visit. Roberts questions Nick about the courier girl, but Nick claims to have no knowledge of her. As Roberts receives a mysterious call, requesting him to eliminate Nick, he enters Nick's hospital room, only to discover that Nick has vanished. Suddenly, from behind, both Nick and the courier girl appear, and the story ends. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.